All right, okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order. It's now 5:36 p.m. October 27th. First things first, roll call. If you're here, please unmute yourself and say here, or if you're here, please say here. Commissioner Shelton.
Here.
Commissioner or Alder Presley.
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Here.
Commissioner Guzman. Commissioner Vincent.
Here. Hi, we're taking roll call right now. Commissioner Guzman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah, so Commissioner Guzman is here. And then Marcus Reno is not present yet. That is something earlier. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Greeno.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, next is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for Monday, October 27th?
Motion approved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Next is agenda item D, approval of the minutes for Thursday, September 11, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, first and second there, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Moving on to irregular business. So for consideration for possible action on recommending changes to the council regarding the short-term rental ordinance 44-1580 J. So I think first, I'm gonna ask the commissioners, to get a motion to open the floor. We have quite a few speakers here. Can I get a, okay?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. So the floor is open. We do ask that since we have quite a few speakers tonight, we do ask that you guys limit your speaking to 3 minutes. And Andrea here has her handy timer available as well, so she'll wave to you guys or let you guys know online when that time is coming close to 3 minutes. But I think what we'll do is we'll start off with the people who are here present in person first, and then we'll move on to the people who are on the Zoom call, if that's okay. And if you guys want to just speak, we ask that you guys come up front here and then state your name, your address, and then you can go ahead and speak then. Would anyone here like to speak today? Sure.
I would, but I'm very nervous.
Oh, that's okay. Come on up.
You don't have to be nervous. We like your.
Yeah.
Melissa Peterson, I own a short-term rental on Oneida Street. Been doing short-term rental for about 8 years.
What's your address?
1844 South Oneida Street.
Thank you.
And I'm really in shock because I just found out that this committee was discussing this. And by the looks of the room, I don't think any short-term rental people know about this. Was there letters that went out or to let people know that our owners that this was being discussed? No, yes.
Our procedure is, you can give testimony, but we don't respond to questions.
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, after the pandemic, Green Bay was maybe a year later, went and reassessed our properties around Lambeau Field. My property just about tripled in taxes. So for the 8 years, I've never had anybody stay longer than 4 days for a Packer game. I've never had anybody stay longer than 5 days for a visit to Green Bay. So essentially what this would do is put us right out of business. And I'm not sure as far as where all the short-term rentals, I know there's a lot by Lambeau Field. I wouldn't think there's that many away from Lambeau Field. So I'm wondering what Are we only kind of looking Green Bay by Lambeau Field? Because there can't be that many short-term rentals that would actually impact a family wanting a rental home, is what I'm trying to say. And with the taxes that I pay, if I turn that now into a long-term rental, my taxes are $8,000. I would have to pay or charge a family $800 a month to help pay for those taxes. So let's say I charged them $1,200 a month, 800 of that is going to go, or 700, I didn't figure it out, is gonna go for just the tax part of it. So it's actually, the homes around Lambeau are probably out of reach anyway to turn it back into a rental because of the tax problem that they've now made. So, and not to mention that they put us out of business after they jacked up the taxes three times, so. I just wanted to say that for 8 years, I've never had anybody stay longer than 4 nights. So essentially, it would just put people right out of the rental business. So, thank you.
Can I? Can I speak? What's the procedure here? Am I allowed to ask questions?
I think so, I think you can ask.
Yeah.
questions.
So first of all, Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
right? Really want to thank you for coming in here and speaking today. I wanted to just quickly address the question about informing people. So this is really the first step in the process. And this has to go to city council.
Mhm.
This is a conversation that we're having as the Equal Rights Commission. So it's good that people found out about this and are coming here. This is,
And nobody showed up though, so that's why I'm shocked.
well,
I thought I was the only one that didn't know,
right.
but apparently all the owners don't really know what's
But that's why we're starting to have
Sure.
this conversation, right?
perfect.
And like I said, like we don't, with the exception of Joey, none of us have voting power on the city council. So we'll make a recommendation and then ultimately the city council will have to kind of take it.
Sure.
I just, I want you to know that Equal Rights Commission put out a report a couple of years ago, and one of the things that we're trying to address is the price of housing in Green Bay generally, right? And I'm not gonna address all the stuff that you're talking about and totally get where you're coming from. There's sort of a lot of different things that the Equal Rights Commission are considering and moving forward to city council. But actually, the number of short-term rentals has increased dramatically over the past few years. We have an inspector for that in the city. And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but if I remember correctly, Alder Presley, it went from like 200 to 500 in the span of like a year or maybe 2 years.
Yeah, it went from 120, I believe in 2022 to over 500 in the beginning of 2025.
Right, and so, and the rent you were talking about, honestly, like given rents that people are facing is quite reasonable, so. I appreciate you saying, like, we need to figure out how to, figure out what's good for the whole
Right.
city, and that's our task, and we're gonna put forward some recommendations, but certainly appreciate
Sure.
you sharing.
Sure, the area around Lambeau is a little different because we're mainly there because of the Packers.
Yep.
And for people to come in, they'll call me and say, I don't have a place to stay. There's no hotels are all booked up. And that's why they call us.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joey.
I have a question as well. Was your property approved as a short-term rental on a conditional use permit? I know there are a couple by Lambeau that were earlier than we enacted the STR ordinance.
gee, I don't know if I'm permitted, yes. I
Okay,
got permitted in 2017.
okay, you'd probably know if it was conditional use permit, you'd have to apply for that, so
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a separate thing, but I just wanted to.
right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room here today that would like to come up and share your testimony?
Hello, my name is Brooke Tassel. I'm an entrepreneur and a local real estate investor. I have 3 properties. And I just wanted to talk about.
Can I have your address? Sorry.
Oh, it's 127 South Ashland Avenue.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I do a home share in that's a duplex that I live in, and the upper unit is a home share, so I rent out a private room and I live in there to supplement the mortgage. And then the downstairs is a full-time Airbnb. And I've been doing Airbnb for 4 years in Green Bay, and I just wanted to talk about the sheer data that I have over the last 4 years from an economic standpoint. So on average, between my 3 properties, we spend between 4,000 and 5,000 a month on cleaning. That's going directly to my turnover partner who's here. She's a single mom of 3 kids. And she works with other Airbnbs as well and uses that to employ multiple people. On average, we spend $1,250 a month on maintenance to local vendors. Vern Cummers Plumbing has gotten 5,000 from us in the last 2 months alone. And that comes out to between $65,000 and $75,000 a year just on my 3 listings. Per listing, that's between 16 and 19 a year. So times that by the 400 or 500 listings you said we have, that is $6.5 to $7.5 million in money to local vendors. Just local vendors. We're not talking about our own money that we make and we put out in the economy. We're not talking about what the guests spend. So that brings me to my next point is the guest spend at local businesses. Airbnb puts out a economic impact report every year. And it's estimated that each booking spends spends $210 per day on local restaurants, shops. My listings last year, my 3 listings had 300 bookings, 298 to be exact. So that's about $63,000 in local business spend just at my 3 listings. By 400 listings, we're at $6.3 million a year in local business spend. Airbnb guests are above average demographic. 25% of them make $100,000 a year, and another 50% of them make between $40,000 and $100,000 a year. The per capita income in Green Bay averages at about $29,000 to $30,000 a year. So just to give you a reference, that these aren't low grade tourism coming into the city. It's not Econo Lodge, $50 a night people. These are people that have money to spend here in the economy, and they are doing it. Okay, and then just to touch on, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Melissa's point. 89% of my bookings over the last 4 years have been under 7 days. So essentially, you're eliminating a job for her, a job for maintenance people. I mean, it would eliminate a lot of tourism here in the city, and high value tourism as well. So, yeah, I would just urge you to rethink this. I don't know the numbers as to how us converting these to long-term would actually make them affordable housing, because as she said, and I think her numbers were off, she would have to charge a lot more than $1,200 if just $800 is going to taxes. There's mortgage, there's property insurance, all that stuff. A house that has an $800 a month in taxes needs to charge like $2,000 for rent minimum before they can, otherwise they're losing money. So I know for a fact that my properties would all have to go back on the market for a minimum of $1,500 for 1 bedroom. Or I'd have to sell. So just food for thought. And if you have any questions, obviously, about any of this data or need any follow-up documentation, you can just let me know.
So thank you, Ms. Tassel, right? So thank you so much. So what would you do hypothetically if, let's just say that the city council didn't pass parts of this, right? And not the minimum stay requirement, but the 180 days a year. What would you do in that situation? Would you continue to rent Airbnb, or would you make it available for a long time? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but like, what would be your consideration?
I'd have to run the numbers. I would probably try to put it back on for long term at a very exorbitant price, you know, just to cover all the expenses. And, you know, an example, my boyfriend just got a triplex that he's also using to supplement income. And it's $3,000 all-in costs. I mean, if we wanted to put those studio units on the market, it would have to be at a minimum of $1,200 or $1,500. These aren't affordable numbers in any way. So I would look into that or sell. And then it would go for even more when that person takes possession of it, because they'd be buying it for 3 times more than I bought it for.
But it could be something that's on the market for somebody who's looking to buy a house, or it's.
Looking to buy it or
So to
rent.
buy it or to rent it, somebody who lives in Green Bay. You'd consider that.
Well, if the numbers made sense, but it would be very unlikely that they would. Especially with the renovations that I put in, like, I renovated all the places to be hotel quality. There's another thing you guys need to consider as well, like, I look at a lot of places to buy, and it's not affordable housing is slumlord housing in many cases. I mean, we've seen a lot of places over the last few months, $1,100-$1,200, 6 people packed in, 2-bedroom houses, like. The answer isn't necessarily, these 400 short-term rentals and making that the focus. There's a lot of other things going on that are making it difficult to have affordable housing.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
If you mind me asking, all your properties together, I don't know if you have this number at the top of your head, but could you share what it grosses, the 4 properties that we looking through?
We have 3, yeah, it grossed last year. Well, one's a duplex, each unit grosses between 28 and 30,000 per year. But then, of course, a lot of that is cleaning costs, like 25%, because on Airbnb, you collect cleaning revenue. So sometimes we'll only be charging honestly $40 a night if it's a small place, on Eastman Avenue or whatever. But our cleaning fee always has to start at $119 to cover our cleaning costs. So sometimes in winter, a lot of that revenue, even though it's gross, is going right back into the turnover costs. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mark Danon, 825 Spring Hills Court, Deep Here, Wisconsin. I am a short-term rental property manager. My wife and I own a company here in Green Bay. We're also owners of short-term rentals. And I'm also a town supervisor for the town of Ledgeview, so I am sympathetic to the processes that you guys are undertaking. I guess I wanted to share a little bit about, I think, Brooke had kind of mentioned the impact that these Airbnbs, we'll just call them, have on the economy. And a lot of times that gets missed. Our cleaner, our subcontractors, our maintenance team, I mean, those are real incomes for real people that, a strategy by moving away from Airbnb type use to a long-term use would essentially eradicate those incomes and have a real hardship on those people. More than that, I understand the need to look for affordable housing, right? I understand the crisis that we are in, not just in Green Bay, but nationally. When I ask this group to consider those, I don't believe this is the answer, right? If we think about the 60,000 single family homes that the city of Green Bay has, and the 500 short-term rentals, even if they all disappeared today, we're talking about a blip on the radar screen in terms of having new homes available for families. Aside from that, I think about the guests that we host. People have a preconceived notion on Airbnbs and think of them as party homes and things like that, when that couldn't really be further from the truth. We've been doing this for about 6 years. Guests that we host are people coming to visit family. They're here for work assignments. They're relocating to the area and they're waiting to buy their next home. They're not just Packard game people, right? We rent year round, and we give people a great experience. People that don't want to stay in a hotel room. So I would just ask this group, as you're thinking about the bigger picture and why you're doing this. I don't believe this is the solution to the problem that we have, right? Responsible Airbnb owners and managers are doing a good thing for the community. We're providing a service to people who want to come to Green Bay. They want to enjoy their time here. They do spend money, right? And taking that away or making that more limited is going to cause a hardship. And I don't think it's going to provide the solution that you guys are looking for. Thank you.
Just a quick question. How many days out of the year would you say one of your rentals goes rented for the average one of your?
So yeah, unlike the last two, we do rent, I mean, I would say on average, yeah, it's probably close to the 3 to 4 nights. We do get some stays, that are, 6 nights, 8 nights. But if the ability for us to rent, to not even have that as an option, it would be a handful of times a year that we would have maybe those longer bookings.
But how many out of 365 days a year, how many days would you say is occupied?
So we have 15 that we oversee. I think I don't, off the top of my head, I have a hard time giving you the number, but yeah,
Fair enough. Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry, and those 15 properties are in Green Bay
Uh,
or?
12 of them are, others are in surrounding areas.
I have a question. So, and I'm asking you to speak, really in your capacity as town supervisor, since you brought it up. And appreciate you sharing this. So if we have 500 properties in Green Bay that are short-term rentals at the moment, what number do you think we would have to get to before this would be something that the city might want to take some action on?
I think that's kind of a loaded question because we've wrestled with this too, even in Letchview, right? And we elected not to take action on it. Albeit much smaller community.
Sure.
But where I look at it is, it's why are we needing to take action, right? That's the first question. Airbnbs or short-term rentals are oftentimes kind of an easy go-to, right? Subset of housing to try to fix a bigger problem. But really, if we think back to like, why do we need to do that? If I would ask you to think about, are there more concerns with, people that are in long-term lease landlord-tenant relationships, right? When they're in a home for a year or longer and the landlord might not be the best landlord and they kind of set it and forget it. Now you have problems that just fester and fester and build. Whereas with short-term rentals that are properly managed, you get a really good experience. And if you did have a bad experience, that bad experience is over in a matter of days, right? So I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know that there's a number of which you would have to get before you would take action, because I'm not really convinced that there's action needing to be taken.
But you would agree that,
I'm sorry, can I hate to interrupt, but I'm getting message from people that are trying to get into the meeting. They're waiting to get in. Do you see anybody waiting in the waiting room?
No, nobody's in the waiting room.
okay, are we good?
Okay,
So-
thanks. I'll ask him.
So, you would agree though that, if there's a certain point at which the number might get big enough that it's a significant amount of people who can't access housing in a particular city, right? Like, let's say that the number continued on its current trajectory and ended up being 2,000 short-term rentals, right? Those are places that in that scenario, I mean, by what everybody's been saying, these are people who live outside our community, we're saying, whether they're making $100,000 a year, or they're coming for a work trip or whatever.
Yeah.
Those would be housing units that are not available for people in our community, right? And all the things you're saying about, long-term landlords, all that's true, that's need to be a part of the equation, but you would agree that those are units that are essentially taken off the market for people who live.
I would agree that, yeah, they are. I think the one thing that we will see in this industry, and we see it all the time, those of us that have been doing this for a while, is there's not just a supply and demand effect going on here, but there's also, for somebody who gets into short-term rentals, say they buy a house in Green Bay. Now, if they were to bought a house in 2018, it looks very different than that investor that bought a house in 2022, right? Well, the investor that bought a house in 2021 or 2022 probably paid a significant premium for that home. Well, that home may or may not continue to make sense as a short-term rental, in which case, naturally, that owner is likely to pivot and make a different choice with that home, albeit it's moving it to a long-term rental or selling it, putting that house back in the market. So I think sometimes when I look at it from a government perspective of making mandates and things like that, in this industry, I don't know that concern is necessarily that valid, because again, everybody that's doing this, they're business owners, right? Or they try to get in it maybe for the draft or what have you. But over time, I think those people will phase out if it's not working, and those homes will become available back in the market. A city's not going to continue to embellish more and more short-term rentals if the business isn't there to support.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a member in the Zoom meeting that would like to talk.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna ask again, anyone here, that's here with us in person today, would you guys like to come up and speak? Sure.
Evening, my name is Ben DeBaker. I live at 901 South Oakland Avenue. I'm an engineer that just moved back to the city from the Milwaukee area. I grew up here. A couple years ago, I moved back. Recently, I bought a triplex where I currently reside. And I rent out as short-term for side income. I am recently divorced, so finances are stretched thin because of it. So to make this is my affordable housing. I live in the lower unit and I rent out the two smaller upper units. These changes would directly impact my ability to spend and save. I just spent a significant amount of money. This was in June that I purchased it. I got the first unit ready quickly in a month, did the permitting to the tune of $1,000 to begin renting this out. I just got my second unit going after sticking a lot more money into it. So I have a significant investment in to make this short-term rental ready. We provide amenities. I bought furniture for these to furnish them. So this change now would hurt me significantly. Additionally, I'd like to talk about some of the stories. You know, people say this impacts people in real ways, unintended probably. We have people that come into town from Germany. You know, their work has training for them. They have to train. He's got a new family, newborn with him. He needs a house, not a hotel. He stayed with us for 3 weeks while he got his training, got to spend time with his wife and his newborn, and then head back. He's not going to find that in a long-term rental. They are going to be booked up. We make friends and are ambassadors for the city. People come. Brooke mentioned sharing rooms, you know, renting out a single room and living there. We meet people, we show them around town. We are ambassadors for the city and they want to come back. There's locals that are in between houses. They just need that month to go in between one house or another. They'll do a short-term rental with us. One thing I want to address with your growing numbers. Yes, the numbers were growing, but we just got out of a draft. How many of those are gone already? We were up to, I believe, 700 was what the county said. And we're back down to 400 or 500. How many more of those are just residual, like, oh, I'll keep trying it for a little bit, try to make some money back on it, and they're going to drop off too. There's a market and it's going to control itself. If we're not renting out rooms, there's too many of them. And we're not, only the people that do a very good job are going to survive. You're not going to have them constantly full, to the question of how often are you full? I've been about 75% full already, and I just started. So there's a demand. And if there's not a demand, I'd have to look at a different way of doing things. But this is my business model. I invested in it, and I need to see it out for a few years to even get my money back out of it. That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair. Considering that we are looking at an owner occupied exemption for these limits on short-term rentals, how would it affect what you're doing specifically?
So everything that's proposed would be exempted then?
For somebody who lives in the house that they're renting out units?
So I have a triplex, so I live in the lower unit, and so that would apply then?
Yes.
For that, okay. I don't think that would change at this time. If I were to grow and try to do this at another place and then turn that third unit into a rental unit of some sort, it's a bigger unit, so, they tend not to rent out as much, so maybe that one's a long-term rental and I continue the short-term up above.
Okay, so would hypothetically, if you were to do something else.
Yeah, if I moved out and bought a traditional house. Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Anyone else here in person, that you guys would like to speak, please, come up. Okay, going once, going twice, okay, going 3 times. Good. Okay, so now we'll move on to the people on Zoom. If you guys would like to speak, please raise your hand. It's a little icon that you can find on the bottom there. And then I believe there's a person who already said they wanted to speak, Charlie, so I'll have Charlie start off, but for the following speakers, if you guys would like to speak, please keep your hands raised and we'll call you as we go down. Oh, sorry, there's a icon. And if you don't know where to find that, you could just type in the chat box that you'd like to speak and we'll get to you. Has that someone? Yeah, okay. Charlie, feel free to unmute yourself, please introduce yourself and then, please list your address.
So my name is Cinnamon Harley. I live at 1198 Canterbury Road. And I'm actually a long-term landlord. I know many short-term landlords that do the short-term rentals. And some of their numbers might be a little off, but for the short-term converting to the long-term, but some of these people bought when the market was high. We have had so many increases in taxes, utilities, the water. It is almost impossible for people who buy rentals now to try to have long-term. I'm lucky I bought some of mine 11, 12 years ago. And I've had to start doing a lot of the work myself as far as like flooring, because you either can't find it or it's too expensive if I want to try to keep my rentals at affordable prices. I mean, I'm struggling to not raise the rent. So, I mean, you got to look at that. If you want to start trying to have more affordable housing, we have to look at some of the things we do to try to control the costs that affect all the landlords. And that's part of it. And like what someone else said too, when there's the oversaturation, they're not going to get the rents and they're not going to get filled. So it's going to actually decrease the number. So there's all those factors that involve in it. 500 is nothing. When right before the draft, if the police department was started having their little short-term rental trainings, they already had 300 then. So, I mean, that was before the draft, months before the draft. So, I mean, 200 more is not really that big of an issue, but these people also feel the need of for when there are fires and people need temporary housing till their houses are either rebuilt or they find another one. They help with traveling nurses. They do fill a need besides just the party houses. And it's hard to explain, but yeah, when you buy them within the last 4 or 5 years, they're not going to be able to afford to do any other difference. And our house prices are not going to decline like you're going to see in Florida and Arizona and California. Our market isn't the same as those. Our pay is a lot more steady. So our prices aren't going to decline. So we have to control some of the costs that lead to the factor of why we're increasing the rent.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm sorry, could I get your first and last name again, please?
Cinnamon Harley.
Got it, thank you.
Rick is next. Okay, Rick Desjardins, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong, but please feel free to unmute yourself and please state your name and address.
Rick Desjardins, 2811 Classic Drive. So I own 3 short-term rentals in Green Bay. All 3 of them are on the water, on the Bay of Green Bay. I think the topic of the reason why you guys are maybe looking at this, right, is probably the value of housing, affordable housing, things like that. I definitely feel most of the short-term rentals that are going to be targeted, whether it's on purpose or by default, are totally out of reach for the vast majority of people that would be buying houses. I mean, all three of mine, there's no way that they're gonna go for less than 500,000. They're not even big places just because they're on the water. And I know there's a lot of people on this virtual call alone that have properties that are over $1 million a piece. Those are not houses that first-time home buyers are gonna be buying, not even remotely close. I pulled up a stat too on a lot of other people have talked about the spend, right? Spending money into the economy. So I also own a lot of long-term rentals, apartments, duplexes, things like that across the city of Green Bay. Long-term rental maintenance is generally each year about 1 to 2% of the property value. And short-term rental maintenance tends to be 10 to 20% of gross rent, which tends to be far higher for short-term rentals than long-term rentals. I know just from owning many short-term rentals, not just in Green Bay, but elsewhere across the nation, as well as the long-term rentals I own in Green Bay, that just by default, the short-term rentals are taken care of way better than long-term rentals. Lots more spend goes into it. The facade of the property, the interior of the property, the upkeep of the property is always higher and better at the short-term rentals, because if they're not, people don't book them. They won't book them because they'll choose one that is being taken care of as well. Because if you're not taking care of them, you get bad reviews and then people don't book your place. So I think from that aspect too of, neighbors complaining, bad people coming into an area, not necessarily the case. The spending, like I said, is a lot greater. And what you'll find, like the other gentleman said too, the guests that come in, they're typically top notch. And having, if you have a bad egg, which does not happen very often at all. I mean, we've had tens of thousands of guests come through all of our properties that we have. And there's very, very few that are bad eggs. And those bad eggs are gone in a couple days. I have properties that are long-term rentals that you guys, the city, are consistently sending things over, that certain notices of whatever reason that the tenant is doing. I don't get any of that at my short-term rentals. So I think the quality of people that are in there is also far better on a short-term rental. You guys did mention how many short-term rentals is too many? 2,000, I think, was a number thrown out there. Why would you issue that many permits if it's a problem? Why issue 2,000 permits? Why not limit the amount of permits that are going to go out? And instead of hitting the people that have already invested money in the properties that are already there, especially like the gentleman that owns that triplex, are they going to be able to move out and buy a house of their own? I don't know, because now they're going to need a short-term rent theirs potentially to make it cash flow. And so why not just limit the amount of permits that go out and allow the people that have this stuff to do what they're doing now? And when the certain number of permits drops below of the amount of licensed permits, then you can issue more. So that's just something to consider. If housing is unaffordable, why not charge more tax to the guest? While I'm not in favor of that, I think it's a better alternative than changing all the rental rules in the way that we manage our short-term rentals. If there was more room tax, you could put that room tax towards low-income housing or first-time homebuyer programs. Use it to support nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity or New Care, where there's rental assistance there. Those are always an option too. Because, yep.
Sarah, did you want to give them any more time? Okay, so, yep, 3 minutes is up. Did you want to respond then?
Commissioners online, do you guys have any questions or responses? If not, we will ask for the next speaker here. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate your information. John Scott. Okay, John Scott, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
You can just wave, but okay. So I just received notice of this just, late this afternoon, so I didn't have a chance to.
John, I'm gonna back up. What's your address and is John Scott your full name?
Okay, it's John Skog. I live at 2520 Sage Drive in Green Bay. I own 3 duplexes on Finger Road near Ontario, so out near the I-43 Business Center. So I didn't really prepare for this, and I like a lot of the comments that were made. I'm not sure, I understand the process and where the Equal Rights Commission gets involved in this and how that all works, and maybe that's not important at the moment, but I wanted to let you know that I'm retired. And I built my short-term rental business on Finger Road for my retirement. I've owned a couple of the duplexes since around the year 2000, recently purchased another one maybe 3 years ago. Each unit in those duplexes, I put about $30,000 into. All 6 units in the 3 duplexes are all updated with new carpeting and paint. All appliances are new. All the utilities are new. Water heaters, furnaces, central air units, all of them have new roofs. I've poured a fortune into these properties, and this is my life. This is my retirement. And so this topic, frankly, scares me. I'm afraid of what you guys are doing or how it's going to impact me and my wife, because this is just sort of how I structured my life. And here I am. In fact, based upon how well I'm doing in Green Bay, I'm sitting here right now in Sturgeon Bay in a place that I just closed on 2 weeks ago, based upon the income that I get from my business in Green Bay. I'm putting about $50,000 to $60,000 into this property I just bought, and it's based on my business in Green Bay. So I wanted to let you know that there's people like me out there. I'm not around the stadium. I'm on the east side. I serve people who are coming to Green Bay, cancer patients who stay for, they come in, they might come down from Door County to get some type of treatment at the hospital, and they leave. A lot of them come for just a couple of nights, but they love having more of a home-like atmosphere as opposed to a hotel. I get fishermen that come in at various stages of the year, in the spring and during the summer. They love my places because I've got big driveways for their boats and their pickup trucks that carry the trailers. So I also am going to say that I do have a cleaning person who totally depends on me. If this goes through, and I'm not sure what all is involved in this, but if it's a 1 week minimum requirement, she's going to be out of a job, and my business is going to be destroyed. So I am hoping that I'm willing to participate in however I can. I was a realtor all my life. I sold my company to Coldwell Banker, where they exist right now at I-43. I used to own that building. I understand housing. I've been involved in equal housing opportunity seminars my whole life. And I understand the process and the questions and the concerns. But this is going to impact not only me, but a lot of people, and a lot of people who depend on us as short-term rental owners.
Hey, John, sorry, I'll let you finish up this thought right here real quick, but we're past 3 minutes.
Okay.
Here, I just wanted to make sure that we stuck with that.
Okay,
So,
I understand.
here, and then we're gonna have to move on.
Okay. Well, that's it. I just wanted to introduce myself. And if I can answer any questions sort of from the perspective I have on all this, I'd be happy to participate any way I can.
Chair, I have a question if I may.
Sure.
1 second, Andrea, Marcus Greeno is waiting to be back.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Sorry, Commissioner Vincent, we're gonna let Commissioner Greeno back into the room, and then you can feel free to have. Okay, I think we should be good here.
Are we good? Thank you for sharing your testimony. I'd like to better understand if you ballpark numbers here, what percentage of the rentals you are already doing would be impacted by the 7-day requirement? How much of your business would likely go away?
Well, summertime, I do better with longer term people. I've got some repeat customers that come for weeks at a time. But generally speaking, I would say 60 to 70% of my business is 3 days, or I have a minimum requirement of 2 days. I don't do anything less than that. I get a lot of 2 nights, weekend type people that come in. I would say 65 to 70% of my business would be gone.
Thank you.
And that, I'm sorry, but I'm just shooting from the hip on that too. I don't really, but it would be high.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, thank you. Anyone else online that would like to speak? Okay, Jared Olson, I see that you wrote in the chat you'd like to speak. Go ahead and unmute yourself and then please introduce yourself and please share your address.
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm Jared Olson. My address is 1136 Shadow Lane in Green Bay. And I just like to, thank the prior speakers. I think they did a great job highlighting a lot of the pros of the short-term rental business in Green Bay. I also like to touch on a few other things. So, for instance, in my property, it's always been my dream to own a business in Green Bay. I'm in the automotive business, so unfortunately, I haven't been able to move back into Green Bay due to my career, but plan to someday. And recently, I renovated my short-term rental, and then I put in about $150,000 into that business. One, because I believe in the city, I believe in the area, and I wanted to make sure I provide my guests with the best stay. So not only did that 150,000 go into the business of making that property wonderful, it went into the local businesses in the area. So I used a contractor locally to basically do that entire renovation. So really, I took a house that was subpar and made it into something extravagant, and that's right next to Lambeau Field. So when our tourism and our guests come in to watch a football game or go to a YMCA national championship event or go to a concert, they get to see a house that is renovated and ultimately looks very nice in the neighborhood. So touching on a few numbers here, my property roughly brings in an additional $5,000 in property taxes, additional to my overall property taxes that I have. So it's generating quite a bit of extra revenue for the city. I use a local lawn service that's $1,200 annually, as well as snow service. I have about $5,000 in annual cleaning costs. That's a local company that I use, and I think somebody mentioned Turno, which is an app that we use with them. So that supports local employees. And then also, I just like to touch on some numbers. So somebody had mentioned about 500 short-term rental permits. So let's just say on average, there's $3,000 to $2,500 additional in city taxes brought in. That's almost 1.5 million in additional city revenue. That's not including the permit process where we spend, I think, annually about $500 for permits. If we look at that 500, that's an additional amount of money that is also brought in during that process. So when we look at it, that could be almost up to $2 million in just permits as well as additional taxes. That supports local employees and families, and that's what those families use to pay their housing. So that doesn't include all of the restaurants and businesses that the employees go to. I've had people from all over the world come in. So I'm from Germany. I've had people from all over the US. And if you look at my property on Airbnb, it's actually it's in the top 1% of all Airbnbs in the world. So what that states is that we do take care of our businesses, and we also are representing the city of Green Bay. And so that in turn makes people want to come back to have that experience. I also suggest that you read the reviews from all our guests on our Airbnb sites. You can see how, one, they appreciate the house, the location, as well as the experience we give them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Any comments or questions from my commissioners online or in person? Okay. Anyone else on the Zoom call that would like to speak today? Feel free to drop it in the chat box or otherwise unmute yourself.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Great. Sorry, I'm driving and I just learned of this meeting about 30 minutes ago, but I just wanted to share some of my own thoughts if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. We just ask that you be safe for one, and then for two, you can state your first and last name and your address.
Great. I'm Tyler Leroy. I own the property at 3184 Morning Woods Court, Green Bay. So I bought the property in 2022 for 1.3 million. And then I end up putting around 400,000 into the property. And I bring that up just because I think I want to hit home a couple of points. One is really, I understand housing costs are increasing, as they are across the nation. For vacation rentals, in order to be very successful nowadays, almost a large majority of them are the $500,000 houses and above. And I ask, if you say, we're going to incorporate a 7-day rule, those will no longer be profitable and they go away. But I really, really, really do not think those properties are going to impact affordable housing for first-time home buyers. Instead, you got to look at the consequences. My property alone grosses $440,000 a year. And I'm proud of that number because $44,000 a year goes to the city for room tax. I am proud to write those checks every single month because I know they're going in to stimulate the economy and stimulate the city of Green Bay. Of that 440,000 that we gross, the vast majority goes to staff, contractors. We run essentially a mini resort at our property, and it takes a lot to run the resort. The 7-day rule would eliminate our property and force us to sell, and it would be very disappointing given hundreds of thousands of dollars that single property goes into the city of Green Bay. Not only that, our guests that stay at our property, they don't come to city of Green Bay and then find us. They find us and then come to the city of Green Bay. These are hundreds of very, very affluent guests that are coming from all over the country, quite frankly, and are spending serious amount of money in the local economy. So you would be wiping that out completely with this move. And I know you guys have hard decisions, but I just also want to really hit home that the properties that are successful now are not your entry level properties. They are higher end properties, and the rule would eliminate them completely. So again, I don't really have more to share, but just wanted to just give you a different perspective to think through here.
Thank you. Commissioner Guzman, please feel free to unmute yourself if I'm not recording.
Yes, I would like to ask the gentleman that just spoke a question. He said that he bought the property, but does he live in that property? I would like to know that.
I do not. Nope. It is. I do not live at the property.
So then, where do you live? Where are you calling from?
Yep. I live in Sheboygan Falls. My business is Wisconsin Getaways. So we have we focus on high-end luxury vacation rentals, primarily in eastern Wisconsin. We have 7 full-time team members, located in. We have a general manager located right in the city of Green Bay that operates the property.
Thank you. That is.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Any other speakers that are on the Zoom call, if you guys would like to speak, feel free to let us know in the chat or just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Motion to close the floor.
We have one motion second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The floor is closed now. Okay.
There was somebody that was asking to speak inside the chat.
At 6:30, just as you closed the floor, it wasn't there until you closed it. So
It was before you guys all motioned to close it.
I mean, I think we should let them speak.
Motion to open the floor.
Okay, second, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Please say nay.
Hi there, my name is Tom Budens.
Oops, sorry, Tom, 1 second here.
Oh,
Floor is open. State your name and your address, please, and feel free to speak.
yeah, my name is Tom Budens, 2710 South Van Buren in Green Bay. And yeah, I think I would just like to officially ask, I think that 4 and 5 on the bill are what everyone has a problem with. I think essentially what you're doing is you're I don't think it's intentional. I think there's a lot of good intention behind this, but I think that kills short-term rentals for Green Bay. It just basically wipes it out. And so I would ask humbly that you would remove those two. I think most people would be in agreement. I'm not sure if anyone has huge problems with the rest, but that would be my ask, is that we would either delay in voting, since not a lot of people had heard about this until recently, or at least those would be removed, if that's possible. And that's really all I have to say. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, commissioners? Okay, thank you. And then we're just gonna ask one last time, any speakers or anyone on Zoom, if you guys would like to speak, please let us know. Going once, going twice. Okay,
Motion to close the floor.
thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Okay, the floor is officially closed. Okay, so I just want to first off start by saying thank you everyone for sharing your testimonies, who came today and who's on the Zoom. We're talking about housing and short-term rentals today because where it stemmed from was how John said, or what he said, referred to earlier, was our report that we wrote a couple years ago. We spoke to community members and organizations about what they were experiencing, and a lot of it was around concerns about affordability, availability, and the growing impact of short-term rentals for local residents. So that's why we wanted to focus on this. It's not about, in my opinion, I don't think this is about setting more restrictions on landlords. I think this is about finding a balance where our community members here can have a basic right, which is having a roof over their head, right? And also while, you know, trying to balance that with supporting tourism as well. I do appreciate, you know, and I do acknowledge the fact that, yes, your businesses do bring in, you know, do circulate dollars here. And so that's great. And I do think that, you know, I do thank all of you for taking good care of our guests who come visit in the city, but I think we have to also remember, you know, who the most vulnerable populations here in the city of Green Bay are as well. And I think we have to make sure that they're also taken care of too. And I do want to also add in there that if you own property, you're already ahead of many of us. And so, you know, I think that's also something else to take into consideration. I was crunching some numbers here too, and I did want to say, I know you guys are saying there's only 400 to 500 units for short-term rentals, and that doesn't sound like a big amount, but once you're looking at the numbers of the census in 2020 said there's about 107,000 people here in the city of Green Bay. We have 45,000 units of housing available for people who are 18 plus who can, you know, have their name under a rental or purchase housing. There's about 81,500 of them, right? And then you take away, you know, a little bit, about half of them, 36,000 who are married. Sure, they share a home. You have about 45,500 people left who need a home. So like I said earlier, we have 45,000 units available. So that means there's 500 people essentially who don't have homes. So your 400 to 500 short-term rental units do matter and that does make an impact. And like I said, I don't discredit that you guys do circulate local dollars. I think, you know, that's important to acknowledge. But like I said, yeah, I think that people who own property are ahead of the game compared to the community members that we spoke to. And I think if we're looking at it in this perspective where $100 is average for an Airbnb, maybe even a little more, but let's say $100 is average for an Airbnb per night, and times 30 days, say, you know, we're looking at per month, that's $3,000 a month. But if you rent it long-term, if you rent it to someone for $1,500, that's half of that, right? So, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. I think we just have to look at it. It depends on how we're looking at it. And I also want to say our group of commissioners here, we're residents of Green Bay. We're here to mediate and find a balance. You know, we're not part of a angry government that keeps sending you guys bills and fees. What we're trying to do is just trying to find the best balance, and making sure that our community members are taken care of. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to share with everyone right now. I want to open up the floor for the commissioners to share your thoughts, comments, questions.
Thank you, Chair. So first I'll make a motion to approve this report.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Well, we want to discuss it first.
Sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, this has been something that we've been working on for over a year now. And we have had opportunities for the public to weigh in. We had open sessions during December and January, so there have been a lot of opportunities for people to weigh in. We've heard from people who own short-term rental units. We've heard from people who are in the housing market and are looking for a place to live. We've heard from people who are renting currently and are hoping to own a home. I'm going to vote for this, and I'm going to vote for this because I am an alder, and I represent a district, and I represent a district that is predominantly renters. And when I look at my constituency, those people are looking for a home. They're looking for that next step, and that has been increasingly out of reach for regular people in this city. We have right now fewer than 10 houses that are for sale for less than $300,000. I'm a renter. I make around the average household income, and that is so far out of reach for me right now. It's crazy to think about how expensive a house can be. So I know this isn't going to solve everything, and I don't intend for it to solve anything or solve everything. And if I said it would, I would be lying. This is a piece of the puzzle, and I think that Green Bay has taken on a lot of pieces of the puzzle. We're simultaneously working at zoning changes so that people can build on smaller lots, so that they can have accessory dwelling units, which will open up opportunities for building more housing. We've put work into a community land trust to build houses and, to have a more affordable access to renting the house or to owning the house, but not the land that it's on, as that land sits in the trust. So I hear, and we have a lot of people speaking very passionately from their position as landowners, as short-term rental owners. I think we specifically wanted to carve out that owner occupied exemption because we don't want to punish people who are making supplemental income in retirement or because their kids moved out of their house and so they have a couple extra bedrooms. We don't want to punish people doing that. We don't want to punish anybody, but what we do want to do is disincentivize treating housing as a commodity, treating it as an investment opportunity. And a lot of the talk I hear right now is talking about people who have wealth, who have invested, who have treated something that somebody could be living in, a family could be living in as an investment opportunity. And because of where I come from and because of where my constituents come from, I can't be on that side. That doesn't make sense to me. Yes, these are higher market value houses, a lot of the ones. I know I represent East Shore Drive, where there are a number of high value houses on the waterfront. But if I'm considering somebody who has a higher income, who's coming into Green Bay, looking for a place to live, if they can't live in that higher income house, then they're going to live in a higher or lower value house and take that out of the commission. They're out of potential buyership for people of a lower income. There's a downstream effect to everything. So well, there's a couple other things I wanted to address that people brought up. Are we just looking at the Lambeau Field area? No, there are short-term rentals. They're clustered around the Lambeau Field area, but that's not the entirety of where they are. Yes, there is guest spend on local businesses. There's vendor spend, or the short-term rental owners who are spending on vendors or on cleaners. But we also have to consider a full-time resident is going to be putting a lot of money into buying their groceries locally, buying their clothes locally, also engaging in all of the things that tourists do, but as a local individual owning a home there.
Joey, I'm gonna stop you right there because I have something to comment on.
Sure.
That when the NFL draft was here, my mom and dad own the business down in downtown. Their daily sales actually went down because everyone actually went by the Packer Stadium area. So I don't think that it necessarily correlates as much local spending or right.
That people are coming in for a short amount of time.
Right. I don't think it adds up as much.
Right.
Yeah, so sorry, I just have to share that.
And then, yeah, the other thing, there was a suggestion to stop issuing permits. That's not something we're allowed to do by the state. We can't put a limit on the number of permits that are issued. Really, if it feels like we're using a very heavy tool here, it is because that is what the state has limited us with. We can't, the state explicitly lays out that we can do a 180-day limit, and that we can do a 7-day minimum. That's what the state lays out. So there's not much we can work around without that, but I want to make sure that we are doing something to disincentivize modification of housing, especially in the crisis that we are in right now. Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, Commissioner Guzman, we see that you have a hand raised.
First of all, I would like to thank everybody who came and spoke. I see you guys are well organized, getting to know about this meeting and the things, texting each other and letting each other know about it. I think that's great. I will tell you that unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is not communicated to the people of our community to come speak and you hear their side as well. Right now, we are representing them as best as we can. I am a person of color. I am LGBT. I am also not a homeowner right now. And I will say that there is somebody who came up on here who is a landlord, and I don't need to disclose their name, but literally evicted me for cents. For cents, okay? I sent them the money. They had it. And for cents, I now have an eviction on my record. So you can imagine how it feels to me, the hypocrisy of all of this, to see people to come up here and say that they're, oh, what about me? What about my wealth? What about my continuous whatever? I am happy for you. I am happy that you were able to invest, that you are an engineer, that you had an education. Some of us have the intelligence to have the same thing, to have the same diploma, but we just didn't have that support. And it's not about punishing anyone. And I want to make sure everyone understands that. It's just the fact that the state currently does not have a limit. Therefore, there has to be a balance. The city of Green Bay is majority minority in the school district as it is. If you go look, somebody here is saying, can they afford it? I'm sorry, but the question alone offends me because of the fact that there is a lot of families here that are of color that can afford those houses. It hurts me to understand that maybe you guys haven't looked into the schools that are in our community. There are walkable schools, Edison Middle School. I am from that school, okay? Literally Finger Road is right there. You know how many people would love to have a house like that, to be able to send the kids to school in a walkable distance? And so it's not about punishing you. It's not about making anyone feel bad, but it's about the fact that there has to be a balance. I am glad you guys are very organized. I am glad you get to come here and you get to say your piece. But I think that this is a conversation that must be had for a while. And I think that you need to be open-minded to see the other side of things. The way that you guys came and assembled and spoke, I'm glad. I'm glad that there's many of you that have similar situations, but the reality is there are currently people who are homeless. I myself is one of them because of cents. I repeat, cents. I now have to beg. I have to prove myself time and time again in not just my worth economically, my education doesn't even matter. I have a bachelor's degree. It doesn't even matter that I'm a commissioner. Listen, I don't have a background. I don't have anything on my record. And even that alone prevents me from renting, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, this is personal, this is important, and it's a conversation that must be had. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, having people come here and tell me that, hey, I'm very short. I might not be able to invest another $30,000 in my next house. I get you, but there are people who can't even if their dream was to have a house right now, they would have to bend over backwards to find one. Because as we saw right now, the houses aren't even economical. So please, I am going to ask everybody here to have in mind that this conversation is for the fact that we are here to speak for the people who are not able to come and speak because number one, they might not speak the language, but that doesn't mean they can't buy a house in the United States of America. I repeat. Okay, so I will be one of those voices that will not be shunned, it will not be shamed, it will not be quiet. I am a commissioner for that reason. I chose to come here, volunteer, by the way. Nobody's paying me to sit here. So while I hear you, I understand you, I feel you, I also need you to feel, understand, and hear the other side. And the other side is really struggling right now. Housing is an issue. I understand you guys want to bring me national numbers, but I don't really care about the national numbers. I care about my city. The city of Green Bay, which I've represented in everything I do, in my education and beyond. And so what I need you guys to understand is that right now there is a housing crisis, and there are houses that are being bought and turned into resorts where there is a school, a community school real nearby that affects the numbers. Listen, there are schools that are getting closed right now because apparently there's not enough seats being in them. Well, guess why? Because they're buying them for short-term housing. So please, I want to make sure that we have that kind of understanding when we have these kind of conversations. And that is all I have to say about that.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner Guzman, for sharing your testimony.
Point of order, I don't really think we should have, can we do something about the chat?
I closed it off
Okay,
to,
great.
yeah,
Okay, great.
I'm just gonna close it. They can still message me if they
Great.
have something important or if it's a commissioner.
I really do want to thank everybody for coming here and sharing, you know, the things you had to say about, this issue. You know, this is how democracy should work. So thank you. And we take all these things very seriously. I really want to thank Alder Presley, because Alder Presley put together this draft report. And it, you know, it stemmed from a lot of the things that we talked about in 2023, which you weren't on the commission yet, but you were probably there in spirit. I was listening. Yeah, that we worked on as a commission. And, you know, our charge as an organization is to make sure that everybody in the city has the things that they need. Our city right now has a low income housing shortage of over 3,700 rental units. This is from an article that just came out this year based on city data. And city officials say they will need to develop up to 7,500 new rental units by 2040 to meet the expected demand. Now, regulating short-term rentals is not going to obviously by itself fix those problems. Right? It's going to fix that number of units, right? There's a lot of things that have to happen. And that, you know, here's would be my challenge to folks who, and I'm just going to tell you right out, I'm going to vote for this. But my challenge for folks who don't want to see this changed, when the city council takes up zoning reform in a couple of weeks, come to that. Say all the things that you just said tonight about how there are other things that need to happen to solve the housing problem. Because that's honestly what we need, is for people to look at things from a broader perspective. And, you know, if we could get to a point where everybody had access to housing, then the question of short-term rentals, it wouldn't be an either or choice. How do we make sure that people have enough housing in this community? So come to the city council meeting and speak up for zoning. I don't know how contentious that's going to be. You have a better sense of that than I do. But those were some of the things that we put in the Equal Rights Commission report in 2023. It's 2023, right? 22 or 23? 23. Those are some of the things we put in there. Community land trust. Those are things the city is doing. So we need to do all these things. We need to do all these things. But, you know, the one thing that I really agree with Commissioner Guzman about is that we need to be taking into account the voices of everybody in our community. And Joey and I, both of us ran for city council. Sorry, Alder Presley and I both ran for city council last time. I see that we've got Alder Prophet here. She ran for city council as well. They won, I didn't, but the number one thing that I heard from, and this was in the Astor Park area, is that there are places that are right in the middle of our neighborhoods that are short-term rentals. These are not just things that are, I mean, with all due respect to the person here talking about his high dollar properties on the water, I don't actually think that's, from what I hear, the majority of short-term housing rentals. We heard from a woman who lives in my neighborhood named Jeannie Beeble, who has been documenting the short-term rentals. She takes pictures of them all. There are dozens of them in the Astor Park area. There are dozens of them in the Navarino area. And these are places that, if they weren't being used for short-term rentals, would be places that ordinary people would rent or afford. There's a whole lot of other things that we need to deal with. We need more people who are landlords doing long-term rentals to be more responsible. We need to build more housing. We need to do a lot of different things in this community. But simply allowing short-term rentals to just like completely go without any level of regulation, to me, is not a responsible part of trying to make sure we have enough housing for everybody who lives in our community. So I want to again thank Alder Presley for putting this together. I think there's a lot of common sense solutions here that we can actually get done in the city. And when this is taken up by, assuming we get the votes for this here, when this is taken up by the city council, I will be there to speak in support of it.
Thank you, John. And I do want to also second that as well, that, you know, we're really grateful for all the effort and all the time that you spent on this. I know you met with Alder Pincus and other members of the community to make sure you got voices in every corner of the housing arena. And so, yeah, we really looked at this report with an emphasis on fairness and making sure that it was shared community benefits, right? And so, yeah, I have something else I wanted to add, but I forgot what I was gonna say. So, commissioners on Zoom, do you guys have anything to add?
Chair, I'd like to speak.
Sure, please do.
I am grappling with the testimony that we heard today, the various perspectives. It's a set of perspectives this commission hasn't heard. It's at least not as fulsome as we did today. And so I want to spend some time thinking through how this might impact a segment of our population that I just frankly haven't had enough time to think about what potential unintended harms might be out there. If there is a vote taken today, I'm likely to be a no, frankly, for that reason. I'd like for us to consider tabling this until our next meeting, if that's something that the rest of the commission would be open to.
If I could comment on Michael, I'm in a similar boat because I like Joey. I do have experience being a renter, having heard from a lot of the members in my community who struggle with, you know, not even being able to have access to housing, much less multiple units of housing and not having the wealth to invest like that. But hearing all the testimony from folks tonight, while, you know, a lot of folks here, you know, have a head up on a lot of people who can't even access housing, it has definitely given me more to think about in terms of the unintended harm, which, you know, like there's a lot to do. There's so much that goes into this issue. And I feel like maybe having a little more thought put into this, I mean, just like for me personally, but also like more deliberation within the Equal Rights Commission before this gets to council, I think I would be for that as well, because this, yeah, hearing all of the testimony, again, thank you to everybody who has come here tonight. That is definitely a perspective I have not heard as much about as I have from the other side. And like Commissioner Guzman did say before, being open and able to listen and understand what's going on for the other side is important. It does work both ways. So thank you again for having everybody speak. I think I would also be in a similar boat as Michael and would definitely like some more time to process this and speak about it before sending it to council.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Commissioner Vincent and Commissioner Hoffman. I just wanted to ask Joey, so the process of this, right? These are recommendations that we could possibly refer back to council, and then council, they'll decide from there what they want to do, right?
Right.
So these are purely just, yeah, recommendations, and there's no hard set numbers that go in this. Here's some way about that.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
So yeah, we have, what is it, 6 recommendations. The ones that seem to have gotten the most response are the 4th and the 5th, which is the 7-day minimum and the 180-day cap on renting for short term. Both of those are also being proposed as a ordinance change, which was co-sponsored by myself and Alder Hinkfist, which will be going to the Plan Commission on November 3rd, and then subsequently to council on November 11th. So like we said, plenty of time and chances to weigh in here. So in terms of holding this, we certainly can hold this. But that, the most contentious part of it is going to go through regardless, because that was a communication separate from what our commission is doing. Well, not necessarily, commission may also hold it, but our actions here aren't going to change what happens with that communication. Just so everybody's fully aware of how that would work. And yeah, I guess I would also just add, we really are looking at this from an equity lens. And I do value looking at all of the opinions. But I also recognize that there are going to be more chances for people to weigh in, more chances for council to consider it. And really, when we're looking at it, there's always going to be a disparity between people who are treating housing as an investment opportunity and people who are treating housing as housing. And there's some lines that, it's going to upset somebody no matter what we do. I'll let the commission vote the way they want to vote, but my vote is going to be to approve this today and send it out to council.
Sure, yeah, can I speak to this too?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, appreciate everybody's concern, and obviously I believe in democracy, so if ERC votes to table this, I'll accept that and continue to work with everybody nicely, but I'm not voting to table this. I think even if this were to be passed tomorrow by the city council, this likely wouldn't even go into effect until the next fiscal year. So there's plenty of time for us to have deliberations about this at the council level. And I think we should vote to move this to the council tonight.
I agree with Commissioner Shelton.
Yeah, and to clarify, any changes that we would make would go into effect on July 1st as part of the new permitting year.
Assuming it gets through the votes in the city council, which none of us here except for Representative President have. All the presidents have. You maybe some.
Okay, any further comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, so going once, going twice. Okay, so I'm gonna ask, for a motion to refer these recommendation changes to the council regarding the short-term rental ordinance. 4-1580J.
I believe we already have a motion. to
Oh,
table.
sorry, okay, yeah, so we have a motion and you guys are still gonna stick with that motion and then a second here. Okay, then I'm gonna, if there's no further discussion, then I'll ask, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry. That's, 4 ayes, all opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Commissioner Hoffman, what was your vote?
Um,
Sorry.
if we're talking in the interest of, okay, if we hold this back, then, it's not really gonna do much. Yeah, I think in the interest, I know I did express that of wanting to spend more time thinking about it. I think having more voices weigh in would be appropriate. So I think I will vote to pass this forward. I will vote.
Commissioner Greeno, I did not, what was your vote?
Abstain.
Okay.
Okay, so the ayes have it, so this will move forward, to be presented to council, in the next meeting. Okay, all right, so, on to agenda item F, informational, the next meeting is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Again, commissioners, Andrea has been doing really well emailing us and keeping us updated on the meetings. Please remember to email her and let her know of your attendance, or if you can't make it. Agenda item G, adjournment. If there's no further discussions or questions.
I'll make a quick announcement.
Sure.
We alluded to this several times, but those zone reform proposals are going to be on the agenda for the November 11th meeting of City Council. So that have to do with affordable housing. So as that's one of our things we're striving for in this commission, I would recommend members of this commission join the council and potentially speak there, as well as members of the public who want to see some change. And yeah, it was originally at the last meeting, but held on until this one. So, yeah.
I'll be there to speak in support and encourage, like Joey, all the commissioners to be there.
Thank you, appreciate you, sharing.
I will also be there to speak in support. And just, can you please, Elder, repeat the date again?
It'll be November 11th, the second Tuesday of November, I think. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other announcements? Okay, so, without further ado, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. Okay.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. 7:02
I had somebody.
I think your daughter deserves some candy.
I think so too.
She did so good.
I hear deep on you.
She did amazing, good job. Cindy.
Oh, goodness. You know. Thank you so much for, handling all this tech stuff. I really appreciate it.
Copy the text, Word documents, but you can have the comments. When you do it. Yes. I will email you. I just know you took it.
Thanks for joining us.